Yes, sir. All right. Well, gentlemen, first off, I really appreciate all you taking time out of either your day or if you're over there across the pond, your evening. So thank you so much for joining. I'll try to keep this brief. I think we should be able to get done in 30, 45 minutes, depending on how much you guys want to expound on some of these answers. But really, the reason I asked you guys to join is because you guys are some of our most successful clients specifically from a weight loss standpoint. Some of the guys who have hit higher numbers like 25 and above pounds. And that is something that I would really love to get all of your insight on. What did you guys do? What were the crucial things that you all did? Or maybe how did you think differently or approach your nutrition differently? And also, like, what kind of struggles did you face beforehand, coming into KT? Because I want to help more guys. As coaches, we really want to help more and more guys achieve these type of results. So with that being said, I do have some questions just so I don't, stray. So if it's cool with you guys, what I'd like to do very quickly is just go around the chat room here and have each of you guys just quickly fill us in on how much weight you've lost in total since joining KT, how much you actually lost in KT in the 16 weeks, if you remember roughly, and then like what your total is at right now, as well as maybe if you still have a goal that you're aiming for, what that total amount would be. So I'll start with Mike because he's at the top of my screen. So Mike Castor, can you just let us know total amount? I know, and obviously one more thing. It's not about weight loss. It's not all about weight loss. That's obviously not the only reason that we come into KT. Everyone wants to get strong as fuck. And you guys have all done that. So great job. Specifically, yeah, exactly. So we can all throw out that flex. Mike, start us out.
Yeah, 173 down to 153. My target was 155, and just to hang, my longtime goal is to bounce, to hang between 153 and 158, 157, right? So just be a mid 150 guy for as long as I am around.
Good. So you're down about 20 pounds total, and you've been staying there now for a little while at least, right?
Yeah, I've been bouncing around basically 153 to 155 for like the last 2 months, which has been, the bridge.
Cool. Awesome. David Biaggi, you're next in the group. What about you?
Yes. Came in at 285, and I sit at 215 today. I think about 9 months later, 45 pounds down in that first 16 weeks, and then the remainder since then. What was there more to the question? What was the rest of the question?
Did you have an end goal in mind? Do you have
end goal
target that overall?
Yeah, I am the lightest I have ever been as an adult. I was probably my freshman year of high school the last time I weighed 215. I think the goal is for 215 to be the upper limit, the new upper limit, and then just continuing to do activities and eat in a way that supports overall health and wellness, and see where that takes me.
Cool. One follow-up question I'm going to ask what everyone wants to know. Did you have that mustache as a freshman in high school?
Started on that in middle school, actually. That's been trying to make its way in for a while.
Looking amazing. Don, you're next, buddy. Fill us in. Where'd you start? Where are you at now?
Yeah, I think you got to help me a bit, Sean, because I also use European metrics, of course. I started in 103.8 kilograms and went down to 87.8. So it's about, what is it, 16 kilos? So 35 pounds, I think.
Yep. So okay.
And now, well,
to 200 roughly.
Yeah, that was in KT, and during the mastery program, I went back up a bit, but I still think it's because of building muscle. So I'm somewhere about 90, 91 kilos right now.
Okay. Yeah, if I remember correctly, you went all the way down to like 100, 195 pounds. And now I've kind of slowly, but over a long course of time, gone up to maybe 201, 202, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Vim, you're next on my screen, buddy.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the second metrics. I started with about 79.8 kilos. You think if it's converted correctly, 176 pounds, and I'm now down to 66, 68 kilos. Depends on how much I did. It's about 150 pounds now, and yeah. So I joined exactly because I was over the weight I wanted to be, and I looked at the mirror and said, "That's a fucking fat frog." So you have to change it.
Fair enough. Andrew Terpstra, what about you, sir?
Yeah, I came in like around 190, I think 190 pounds. And through the 16-week KT, I went down close to 169, 170 pounds. And then I'm down to like 160 now. So I don't really have a goal per se. I didn't really, kind of this last 10 just kind of happened. I mean, and I don't know kind of a little bit why it happened, but it just happened like kind of quick.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. John Cannon, what about you, buddy?
So when I came in, I think I was running right at 180, 178, 180. And I had started somewhat before that trying to lose some weight, but was having trouble with consistency, which is what brought me in the KT originally. But during that, I got down to 20. I think I lost 25 pounds during the initial 16 weeks. I'm sitting currently at about 150 pounds now and have stayed there. We're actually trying to turn the tables a little bit and go back up some as I'm trying to build more muscle, which has now become harder to gain weight than it was ever in my life. So
I like it. Good stuff, man. Michael Johnson, what about you, buddy? Oh, no, I can't hear you. You're not muted. I can't hear you, friend. Sorry, buddy. You had the echo and now you have nothing. I'd rather hear two of you than none of you. So I'm sorry. Mike, want to try to reconnect on audio or come back in one more time? We can try and get that fixed up. Okay, let's see if this Michael works. What's up, Mike?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
All right. I came in, I think at the beginning around 201, 202. And I think after 16 weeks, I was down about 20 pounds. I can't remember the exact cutoff. And I've been hovering around 178 or so after a really rough holiday period with everything that the holidays entail. This morning I was 176, so in total it's been about 25-ish pounds. So
Okay.
my goal was around 175, so I'm about there. My new goal is 165. So.
Good. Yeah, I like it. Always fun to reassess after you've had a weight loss period and bounced around a little bit. That's a really typical thing. I think you guys who have, not everyone in this program just goes on a straight slide down. It's like they see that first loss, they bounce around, and then usually they reassess at some point and say, all right, what's the next goal?
Yeah.
All right. So everyone here has lost at least 20 pounds. Sounds like everyone achieved that 20 pounds in KT and then has either kept going or has sort of was there at that weight. My next question for you guys is, how closely did you all follow the plan as it was prescribed in terms of 2 weeks on the food list and just eating off that food list, 2 weeks of using the hand to do the portion control, and then starting to get into the calorie tracking using either MyFitnessPal or the app or whatever you might have used, and then going calories, protein, macros. I'd love to just hear, did you stick very closely to that? Did you not weigh food? What is your guys' overall thoughts on that? We don't have to go too much in depth, but Mike, I'll just start with you. Did you follow the progression pretty closely?
Yeah, absolutely. I did, and even sometimes to the chagrin of my wife, who was like, "Oh, really?" But yeah, like I even started doing my MyFitnessPal earlier because I had experience using it in the past. So I wasn't doing macros per se, but I was definitely tracking calories on an estimated basis. And then from a family perspective, after a couple of weeks into it, I started actually doing more meal planning and cooking even for the rest of the family. So then my wife came around and we're all good.
And do you still track now?
I do. I don't weigh as often. If I start to see like my weight's getting a little like, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm estimating poorly, but maybe it depends like what I'm making. If it's like a chicken breast, I've got a pretty good sense of what's like a 5, 6, 7 ounces that, like I don't necessarily need the grams, but if I'm making up like the breakfast sludge per se, something like that, where it's a bunch of different mixtures, I will typically weigh it. So it depends.
So Mike, just so I can be clear, during the period that you were losing a lot of weight, were you pretty precise with your measuring? Were you measuring each day?
Yep.
How did that? Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. And
David,
I'm basically now on a maintenance, right?
Yeah.
So.
Right. David, did you go food list, hand portion? Tracking?
Yeah. And over the course of the 16 weeks of KT, there were probably a total of like 7 days where I didn't follow that to the best of my ability. And those were days where I was traveling or celebrating something out of town with family and friends. But even then, I think the way the progression works, it teaches you to be aware of what you're eating in such a way that like you sit down at a restaurant and they bring you a sandwich and fries and you go, well, like I'm going to eat that sandwich. And that's got, a bunch of good protein and carbs and fats in it. And I'm going to eat some of those fries because like they're delicious, but I'm not going to eat all those fries because I don't need that much food. So, even in the places, those 7 days where it was, off program, I definitely was still able to feel the things I had learned from being on program carrying me through. And then since then, probably I've stayed pretty strict in terms of, like it's just, it's pretty easy for me to measure and weigh. So I do that, I'd say I'm probably like at this point, 2/3 compliant, where 2/3 of the time I'm weighing. And that's always that breakfast, the sludge.
Yeah.
That's such a easy win in the mornings. And then, usually weighing and macroing my lunch and then estimating on dinner. And that seems to be going pretty good for me.
Well, yeah, because you've continued. I mean, I know you said you lost 45 pounds in KT, but you've lost another, 25 or 30 pounds since then, right?
Yeah, 70 total. So another 25.
And you're not even consistently finishing out your day with precision on the dinners. It's more just kind of, I know roughly how many calories I have and I'm gonna.
Yeah, like if I get to the end of the day, if I'm measuring lunch and breakfast and I get to the end of the day, I know I've got, the way the targets I'm looking for, I know I've got about 900 calories for dinner. Like when you're eating quality food, it's hard to eat 900 calories in one sitting. So it's, you can kind of just go nuts with it.
Okay.
All right.
Good. Really good feedback. John, what about you? Did you follow hand portion control or foodless hand portion control and then into calorie tracking as well?
Yeah, I think that's since I've started, my tracking has been pretty OCD-like, but like Mike, I was already used to my fitness pal way before I started KT. But yeah, I've went through all the phases, and it's learning you to take a good look at your food again, and yeah, to set you straight on portion control, of course. I think the hand size portioning is still useful when you're traveling or something, so it's always good to get familiar with that. Yeah, until the day of today, I'm 1 year and 2 months in now, I think, somewhere around that, even longer.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm still tracking every day. It became yeah, second nature, actually.
Do you prepare most of your own food at home, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I always do 2 to 3 dishes, make 2 to 3 dishes on Sunday, which I use for lunch and sometimes for the evenings. And of course, I eat the sludge too, which is just a success formula to start your day. And yeah, sometimes I think 4 days a week I just cook out of the fridge, and the rest is yeah, pre-made meals on Sunday, but all fresh, of course.
Yeah, real smart. Vim, what about you? Did you do the progression as it's laid out?
Yes, I did. So, but I was struggling at the beginning, and it was a horror for me because normally I love to cook. And if I'm going to cook, I do everything which is Italian style food. And I love a glass of wine and things like that. And in the beginning, nothing changed because, yeah, I was eating like I did normally, some pasta, some meat, some wine, and this and that. And after a time, I recognized, man, even a glass or 2 of wine every night might be a little much. And then I changed it. And I think it was starting to progress for me when we continued with hand portions. And until that time, I reduced everything on alcohol on 1 day or 2 a day on the weekends, where I said a glass of wine or 2, that's it, no beer. Because the German problem, if you have beer, you drink beer like water. And yeah, everything of these things stopped. And so after the hand portions, I started very well for me, and I changed breakfast for porridge. No more bread and no more sausages and things like that. And yeah, so after we had the thing with counting calories, I joined in stopping eating outside during the week and started to order it because I'm not very good at prepping my food. So in Germany, a firm, it's called Prep My Meal. So send it deep frozen, and it's freshly cooked and deep frozen, and you have all the ingredients you need. You can check it. That's perfect. It was a big change for me.
That's nice. And since you've been hovering around at this lower weight that you're at, have you continued to drink less and use those pre-prepared meals and use those strategies?
At the moment, not, because it's going to Easter. So I had to break the fasting time for 40 days, no, completely for everything. And yeah, but I kept going to have a glass of wine on the weekend or 2, but not more. So to be honest, I can count it on one hand how much glasses of wine I have during the week now. And before KT, I started to come home, I cooked something, and yeah, the typical thing, you're opening a bottle of wine, you're having 3 glasses of wine on the night, and then everything is fine, okay, but yeah, it's not fine for your health, so.
Man.
Tasty, but not fine.
Isn't that a real thing? It's like, I feel like anyone who's considering, following the plan is like, oh, but I'm going to have to give up wine, or I'm not gonna be able to drink beer. And it's like, well, once you do, you kind of realize that, oh, actually that wasn't that great for me to do that. It actually did make me feel like shit. And I feel much better now that I'm not doing that. And yeah, it's just, we get stuck in our ways. And I definitely feel the sense of when I get home at night, well, I'm home all the time, but when my kids come home at night, I certainly feel the sense for, oh, I could take a beer or a glass of wine right now. Yeah. Man. Andrew, what about you? Oh, and sorry, Vin, can I ask, are you still measuring and tracking consistently?
I'm still still tracking, not so consistently like I did it in the 16 weeks, but I would say 5 days a week. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Good to hear. Andrew, what about you, buddy? Did you do food list, hand portion, and then start weighing your food and everything?
Yeah, I did food list for sure. I did hand portion. I wasn't the best at, but I did. I got the point of like don't overdo it, so I didn't eat too much. I didn't feel like. And then I did start measuring, which has helped. I was always way under. I never got enough carbs, and so when I lost the 20 and KT, it was weird. And so, I mean, like I said, I know why. It's not any kind of genius reason why. Like I stayed stuck at the end of KT, like from like 169 to 172, just bounced back. It's because actually I was just eating tons of chips when I should not always like recording them, like I was kind of just like the crunch, I just was really doing some chips. But then I'm not a very good cook, but then I had to quit the chips and just start cooking potatoes. And so I just cook potatoes for carbs. And then all of a sudden, since then, but I still measure. Yeah, I still measure.
Yeah.
Pretty regularly. I mean, all the time, basically. So.
Yeah, good to hear. Okay, very good. Gianni, what about you, man?
Yeah, for me, the measuring is still consistent. I was during the 16 weeks, I was pretty hardcore with measuring out my food and trying to hit my numbers. And that's continued. I mean, I give myself generally one meal a week where I don't. And that's because we're going to be going out to dinner with friends, family, or I'm in a situation where I can't. Last night I went to dinner, but last night I went to dinner and with some friends. But it was fajita, so there was chicken and flank steak. So I mean, the hand portions come back into effect where I can kind of judge what I'm eating, but still eating healthy. I prep my meals all week long. I kind of eat the same thing nonstop for breakfast and lunch, and then dinner it changes up what we have. But I kind of pretty much eat chicken and rice for lunch every day, and have done that consistently. Have my oats in the morning. But it's stayed for me now. It's become almost a game to try to get it exactly on the nose for my macros every day. And that's my weight doesn't fluctuate a lot. Like I said, I'm trying to gain some weight. We actually upped it to 2,400 calories, and I'm staying within 150 to 151 for the last month. And so that may be a maintenance level for me now, I guess. But the alcohol was a big part. I cut that out during KT for 16 weeks. I didn't drink at all. So that was a big portion. And during that time, I was a pretty big social drinker on the weekends. I mean, we'd have a good time almost every weekend, and that's changed that now. I mean, every once in a while, about every couple of weeks, I might have a beer, but for the most part, I've cut alcohol out of my life since I started this program.
You and Vim both really reduced or eliminated completely. Did anybody else, just real quick, did anybody else really feel like they cut down alcohol intake? I just would love to hear, not even here, but you could just raise your hand because I'm curious. Were you guys not drinking before and so you continue to not drink, or you're like, no, I still drink consistently like I was?
No, I didn't drink before, so I don't.
Me neither. I'm not a big drinker.
Fair.
Yeah, not a big drinker.
I remain a once every couple months drinker.
Okay.
Not a big alcohol guy.
What about you, Mike?
My wife and I started actually transitioning away from beer for all the reasons Wim and others. We have good German stock. I think like this last summer. But I'm really into Scotch. But the nice thing about it is you pour a small dram and it's strong, so you sip on it for a long time. So yeah. I went for some time off alcohol during KT, but when I came back on, I just appreciated it. A small pour. Obviously most evenings, but yeah. It's much more under control, and I use it like in a substitute, right? So I just eat fewer carbs.
Right. Counting for it now more
Yeah.
so than having the additive. That's good to know. Mike, what about you, buddy? Did you follow the nutrition protocol pretty closely?
In KT, I was more strict about it. It's always been a struggle, honestly, with me. My schedule and stuff, I tend to do a lot of traveling into like rural areas of Texas where there's not really access to a lot of good high quality stuff, right? So my prep and planning oftentimes is just kind of poor. But initially, like in KT, like I was pretty solid about it, but then my schedule just kind of ramped up, and I'm constantly busy with like 2 jobs, a lot of travel, and right now I just kind of like watch what I eat right now. I really need to get back into being a little more strict to see those results. But no, I'm not the best. I probably shouldn't be in this room.
Yeah, not true. You definitely should be. And I think that's something that's important, like to understand, right? Is because like if you're strict and you stay on it and you measure and you're eating the right amount, you see the results, right? Now, probably haven't been quite as strict, and maybe you've put a few pounds back on, but you haven't gone back up to where you were when you started in KT. I think oftentimes because we gain such a huge understanding of how much food we actually need, and also how much the other stuff really adds up. You know, like Terp, you were talking about chips and stuff. It's like if you try tracking some of that stuff, you're like, oh my God, do I really want to consume, 500 calories from chips? Like I'd probably rather have a full meal than do that. So the awareness is a big piece. Okay, so everyone followed pretty closely. Everyone, when they were getting their big results, it sounds like you guys all tracked pretty closely and were measuring. One of the biggest things that we deal with, I shouldn't say deal with, but one of the biggest challenges that the guys in the program who don't necessarily see the weight loss that they want to see, what they face is they just aren't able to consistently come around to tracking their food for one reason or another, whether it's lifestyle, whether it's just their ability to stay focused. Also, I'd love to hear from you guys. Don, you mentioned it was like kind of OCD. John, you were like, hey, it's like a game for me, right? David, I thought your advice about, I track my breakfast and my lunch, and then my dinner, I kind of know what my range looks like. What are your guys' biggest hacks? And they might not even be like tactical, maybe they're more mindset, but what keeps you guys able to track when so many guys are not tracking? And this doesn't have to be like in order. I'm just open to the room for anybody who feels like they've got this figured out.
For me, I'd say when I came to this, I was kind of a sneaky overweight. I didn't, most people wouldn't have realized it, but I wasn't comfortable, with my shirt off or being at the beach and doing things. I had gotten to a point in my body where I was not happy with it. The progress that I saw early on became addictive, that anything that got in the way of that was a problem. And so for me, I just weeded out everything that could stop the progress that I was seeing. I felt like I put too much time and effort into it to sabotage anything. So that's what kept pushing me. I'd be in situations where I might not eat dinner. We're at a friend's house. They didn't have something I wanted to eat if it was a big group and it wasn't something, everybody's kind of making their own plates. They go, I would wait till I got home. I wasn't gonna, sometimes my wife would get a little unhappy with me for some of the situations, but I just refused to do anything that would negatively affect the results that I had already seen. Because I didn't want to impede my progress at the time, because I was seeing such results after multiple attempts at other things to try to gain these results that I never did. Once I started seeing them, I wasn't willing to give it up.
Did you change like what kind of food and stuff you had in the house? And
yeah, we were fairly healthy eaters. My wife's very petite and always healthy eater. For me, it was more, was probably a lot of it was drinking for me. I wasn't drinking a lot during the weekdays, but the weekends, like I said, were always a big time. And then eating at lunch at when I'm in retail, I own a retail business. And so if somebody goes out every day and picks up lunch, so I'm eating a Wendy's hamburger or whatever it may be for lunch every day, whatever's quick and convenient, and not taking the time to prep my food or eat a healthy breakfast. I'd swing by somewhere, fast food on the way in, grab something, and my 2 meals a day were always consistently unhealthy. And then dinner was generally pretty good because my wife has always been a pretty healthy eater. So dinner was never too bad for me.
And so now you're instead doing your chicken and rice that you make at home.
Yep, every day.
Work with you, or?
Yep, bring it to work with me.
Gotcha. It's a big difference.
Oh yeah.
Really simple though.
Oh yeah. If you're okay with eating the same thing all the time. I do mix it up every now and then. We'll have some leftovers from dinner and I'll bring, something else. But It's easy enough to
Right.
just cook a sheet pan of chicken and bake them in the oven and have all that and make enough rice for the week. So
Right. But it's definitely that, just like that single thing, right? Of like, I'm gonna stop eating whatever's put in front of me, and I'm instead going
Yep.
to put it in front of myself. And
yep. And
Yeah.
it trains. It also whenever go to a restaurant now. I mean, it's the same deal. I'll find something on a menu that fits what it is that I want to eat. I mean, generally whether it's got to be broccoli or have a steak, have a fillet instead of eating chicken parmesan or something to that effect.
so John, just, it sounds kind of like yours was one part habit, like you decided I'm no longer going to eat whatever's put in front of me. I'm going to make my own food. But the other part of it kind of sounds like it was really like a mindset shift where you're like, I'm not going to let anything get in the way or anything take back these results that I've
Oh,
gotten.
100%. Yeah, that's the mindset was the biggest portion of it all. I mean, that led to the habit and led to the change. But the mindset is definitely where it all started.
Love hearing that. What else do you guys think has been important for you to
I
really
think it's
stay?
in general when you start seeing progression and start losing weight and see that it works well for all of us here, that you start kind of to get addicted to it. It's okay, well, this is working, I got to keep going right now. It becomes a second challenge next to swinging the bigger bells. And for me, what I did was, I think that's a tip in your training too, is I plan my day ahead. The night before, I would fill out my FitnessPal to make a pre-navigated roadmap, and you don't have to think every day what you're gonna eat. And besides that, I don't know how that's for you guys, but in the Netherlands, there's some kind of a culture. You get your groceries every day, and when you need to get your groceries for your dinner, that you need to decide while you're hungry what you're going to eat while you're in the supermarket. And we just changed that to get groceries every week on Saturdays and buy the groceries for the whole week. So I think you eliminate the opportunity, the possibility to slip up during the week, because you already made a roadmap and you don't have to think about every step you got to make every week, every meal. Well, that in combination with the sludge, then you're all set.
Right. The sludge. It's huge, right? The breakfast anchor, just starting the day with the same thing. John, you were like, some people might get bored of that. I'm like, well, I mean, maybe. And then you switch it up occasionally, but like progress isn't boring, and
Yeah.
I usually use that's my modifier for when I've got, I almost never do it for a meal. I usually use it as a snack or at the end of the day if I'm light on, and then it's got everything, so you can blend it based on what you need in your macros. So it's
yeah,
great work in there.
big fan of the yogurt blueberry peanut butter snack.
Yeah.
One of my go-tos.
For me being in this, it was twofold. One, like I knew that if I paid for something, that I would then take it much more seriously. So putting money down meant I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and where my fitness is, and it's more accountable, which then ties into number two. I'm just very internally competitive, and so if I'm going to make a bet on myself in this sort of way, then that drives me to do it, and then that just fed a very sort of like competitive mindset. I can't remember if it was you or which of the coaches, but when I signed up, part of it was a push from the book. Can't believe I can't think of the name. Where he talks about
Atomic Habits, maybe.
Thank you, Atomic Habits. But he talks about if you want to be like whatever, fill in the blank, think like that person would think. And so I was thinking like, okay, I don't necessarily want to be or need to be a professional athlete, but what do those people train like? I was very like one of you guys, I think it's John, like very just dissatisfied with the way I felt and looked physically. And I had typically been a pretty fit dad, able to run around and throw around my kids, except for the last number of years. So it was well, what does a professional athlete do? They've got a coach. They pay for a coach. They have nutrition plans. They stick to them. You know, well, I can do that. And then it's sort of kind of become a bit of a game, but it's also a mindset like, I haven't eaten yet today, and I was going to eat earlier, but then I'm like, you know what? I bet I can mentally keep myself for another hour, and I'll get some lunch after this call. So it's kind of that thing, like my hunger does not drive me. My discipline drives me. But that all goes back to just that competitiveness that I have inside.
I like this. Who else?
One change I did. Everything that comes through your car window is no food. No, never it is no food.
Oh, man.
Didn't explain that one.
Yeah, I stopped driving by at McDonald's or anything else. So I totally stopped it. The only thing or the only opportunity is to get a coffee. Everything else is junk food. So I don't want it. I don't eat it. And that changed totally. If I had to make an appointment at another court anywhere else, another town, I was a lot of times stopping by to have a burger or something. I'm not eating properly something for lunch and junk food. So on today, I'm going to buy a bottle of water, a coffee, and that's it. And I go. Everything else is not eatable.
I like that.
Yeah. And so what do you do now if you have, let's say you got to go to another town? Do you just skip lunch or do you bring lunch?
I discovered there are apples and bananas and nuts. It's
Yeah.
very easy. You can keep them everywhere.
Man, that is a really good point, right? You can always find something that's a healthy option.
Yeah, it's a healthy option. And even if you don't have everything that's healthy, you can have a protein bar or something like that. It's even better than eating some rubbish.
So Vim, I get the strategy, right? Don't get the fast food, seek out something healthier. What was the what was the thing in your head? What was the mindset that made you, make that switch? How were you able to actually do it?
In the beginning, it was clearly, I said it's 16 weeks, and if I can get a result in 16 weeks, I can keep it. And I was struggling in the beginning with my habits, and then I thought, okay, if you don't get this into your grip, and if you don't manage it, you never see a result. And then I got really strict on it. It was a competition to see if I can beat myself.
I love it. We're all competitive. It's good, but competitive with ourselves, it sounds like, right? I mean, that's what this journey is, right? If you're gonna
It is.
be able to get the results, it's about you.
Yeah.
Any other words of wisdom for you guys sticking to your guns as it pertains to nutrition?
Well, I implemented one thing for traveling too. I think I mentioned it to you once, Sean, when I made plates of food. I would take a photograph of them when I was at a buffet or something while traveling, and I knew how much my macro distribution was on how my plate should have looked. And it's approximately, of course, but it works pretty well too if you're not brought your scale somewhere. So they're
you
in my
plate of your
favorites.
regular food, like what you normally make. You'd take a photo of that, and then you'd bring it and you pull it up next to what you ordered.
I just had a photo of a good lunch with chicken or with beef and rice and some vegetables, and I could always replicate that more or less on while traveling. So
That's a sneaky
Smart.
right there.
they're in my favorites from my camera roll, so I can pull them up every time I want.
Gosh, that is smart right there. I like that.
For me, it was kind of this excuse. Yeah, well, I'm traveling, so I'm just can eat what I want. So it was like in Holland we call it a stick behind the door. I don't know what the English proverb is for that.
Explain it to me. Stick behind the door.
It prevents you from slipping up. It's a preferred that it's the stick behind the door, so the door doesn't go open all the way.
Oh, that kind of stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put
I didn't know if
yourself-
it prevented you from something or if it tricked you. I wasn't sure.
Prevented me from eating those burgers or fries while traveling.
This is kind of my last question that I have for you guys, but what do you guys feel like were your biggest challenges that you faced? Maybe stuff where in the past you would have, really slipped up. Like Ben, that was a perfect example of like, in the past I would have gone and got fast food, but now instead I do, apples and nuts or something like that. John, I think you mentioned like, in the past I would have had whatever was there at my buddy's, but now I just won't eat and then I'll go home and eat. Like, what have been the biggest challenges you guys faced where you feel like maybe previously you would have fallen off? And what have you been able to do? Like, what's been different? What's been the main, like, big differences that have really, because obviously there's like tracking food, right? But then there's also this other thing of where like, you don't want to blow up and have these things that normally get in your way happen. So what have you guys done? What's been the big difference makers, do you think?
Preparation. Like, it's just being prepared for the week. If you don't take the time, like Sunday for me is a day to get everything done. I know what I'm going to have for the rest of the week. I have all that stuff, but it's obviously sometimes that doesn't happen, or, and then I find myself scrambling during those next couple of days to get what I need and to eat healthy because I didn't take the preparation time ahead of time. So for me, it was just making sure on Sunday everything was taken care of from Monday through Friday. And then that just made the rest of it easy. If I didn't do that, then you're trying to find somewhere to get something from. I said there's not many places you can go pick up from that's going to have a healthy option for you all the time, quick. So just taking that out of the equation, and there's no guesswork from Monday through Friday for me now.
Yeah. And so would that be like preparing all your proteins, all your carbs? Would that be like breaking it all the way down into individual Tupperwares, or would you have like?
Yeah, so I do mine. On Sunday, I've got my morning oats for the week sitting in the fridge, ready to go for Monday through Friday, and I've got my lunches Monday through Friday stacked in there. And so I just grab and go. So I'm not coming home. I'm not preparing that stuff every night for the next day. And for me, some people that may work for them, but for me, that's how I got where it was consistently. I was making these things happen is by just having one evening where that was all taken care of. So the rest of the week, all I had to do was wake up, go to work the next day, grab my stuff and go.
Man, I could see how that would make it easy.
Yeah.
To stay on track. One habit that knocks down all the other ones for you.
Right.
What else for you
Yeah.
guys?
Talking about kind of like first domino habits. Like you for whatever reason, you come into the program and you think, like, I'm going to do this good thing for myself. And probably the most recurring thought I had like the first couple of weeks was, man, this is some bullshit. But I had committed to the process. And so whether or not I thought it was bullshit, I stuck with it. And that was the first domino that led to, okay, well, actually, like, I do feel better when I'm regularly eating well, when I regularly have access to endorphins from working out, when I go for a walk and see the sun every day. And that led to the domino of like, well, it is easier to just have clean food available, so I don't have to think about it. And it's just a stacking set of decisions that lead to sustainable success. But the first one for me was like taking what I felt and putting that in the back seat and going, that's not really as important right now as executing on this plan. And
Jeez. That's a big one right there. You're right, it is some bullshit. But what's the alternative? It's like,
yeah,
The
Yeah,
truth.
and even like tying into that, Dave, like I remember, one of the things in one of the Instagram posts that, it's like, working out, you can eat whatever you want, and it was like one of the comments. I was like, oh, that's, like this picture of like a pizza, like whatever. I was like, oh, that's, kind of interesting. And so then I got, then I started the program, and I got this, only eat the food list. I'm like, wait a minute, there's just
Fuck, where's
only
the
a bag
pizza?
of goods here.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's like, who are these guys? What kind of freaking coaches? But what what then I came to learn was I actually can eat just about whatever I want in the right moderation and in the right proportion. Like we do Friday night pizza nights, and for those first 2 weeks when I was only on the food list, I didn't partake, and my wife would kind of like thought that was whatever. But I was like, nope, just stay with me for 2 weeks. And then that also goes to my other hurdle was my wife was not that she didn't like it or like the idea, but it meant that we had to adjust. She's always been the food preparer, so we had to adjust how she did things. But between those two things, I got to learn, and I came to see it's not that I can't eat these things, it's that I just do it in moderation. I still eat pizza now every Friday with my family, but I just have like much less than what I would have normally had, and it's thin crust, and I supplement it with big ass salad and like chicken. I get like a piece of chicken along with it. Actually, thankfully, Domino's, you can buy chicken along with it. So I just,
There you go.
so I get chicken, and I wolf down a bunch of chicken and a salad, and then I have like a piece or two of pizza, and it's great. So that was the thing of like getting over that hump of what's felt like a bag of goods on the sales front was actually legitimate, just in a very different mindset kind of way.
Yeah, it's definitely some Mr. Miyagi stuff, right? where you've got to come in and learn the fundamentals so that you can improvise, right? Like we spent those 2 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever it was, learning about our bodies and nutrition and how to fuel our bodies for performance. And now it's like we can't have pizza. We can, we like those things were never bad things. It's just, we live in a world where that's the default choice when it's like not necessarily what's going to promote your health for yourself so much as, like
That's the truth.
health for Domino's.
Yeah. It's some bullshit that you can't eat as much as you want of whatever you want.
Right.
But like, it's also some bullshit that we have access to be able to eat a large pizza that's got 5,000 calories in it, and it costs you, $8 to get it. Like, so what are you going to do? Are you going to eat all the pizza, or are you going to have the discipline to understand, like, no, I can have a couple pieces of pizza, and then I can have a big salad. And hey, I can also adjust my food intake earlier in the day on Friday if I know that later in the day I'm going to be eating pizza. So preparation. Well, guys, it's 12:50. I had this meeting only scheduled, I think, for 45 minutes. So I greatly appreciate all your guys' feedback. That was very informative for me. I hope you guys got something out of that too. I feel like I was getting some ideas about what I needed to do just from listening to you guys crushing it. But most importantly, I hope this helps other people who are maybe struggling with their nutrition to understand like what it does actually take and what success actually looks like. So thank you guys very much. Don, thank you for bringing your beautiful daughter on as well.
Need to bring her to bed. So she was calling me. Sit down. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All you appreciate your time.
Yep.
Keep going. Stay strong.
See you guys.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
All right, fellas. See you soon.
Bye.